Voyager's in orbit around a big green marble, so we can steal 1,000 tons of its natural resources. There are indications of an old settlement here, but it looks abandoned, so Janeway thinks we're within our rights to call dibs. B'Elanna's left in charge of the mining operation and is organizing a team with Ensign Conspicuous, who tells her his experience with rock climbing might be of use, before proposing marriage. Now, the observant among you may have noticed a slight change of topic between the start of that sentence and the end of it. Indeed, Ensign Conspicuous's efforts here make the Doctor's attempts to woo Dinara whilst he was performing brain surgery on her look positively smooth in comparison. Let's see how that plays out for him. He gives some excellent reasons for the two of them hooking up, none of which seem to include that they enjoy spending time together, before she declines his generous offer. He seems to take this poorly, so much so that he's a touch emotional about it. Is it Vulcan Shagger season for him? Perhaps, as he mentions he's one of the few people on board who'd be able to engage in Klingon sexy times without needing medical treatment afterwards, and, to prove it, he gets a bit handsy. B'Elanna responds to this with the respect it deserves and knocks him on his arse. Given her approach to workplace conflicts previously, the bastard's lucky he still has a functional nose. Ensign Conspicuous is in sickbay where, based on the Doctor's treatment, it's implied that the Vulcan libido is stored in the chin. Oh wait, no, that's because B'Elanna dislocated it. She wants to know why Ensign Conspicuous was acting like an arse, but the Doctor refuses to discuss it with her, and she leaves. The diagnosis is what we suspected, pon farr, which, for those who don't know, is the Vulcan term for wanting to get jiggy with it. Vulcans don't talk about it to outsiders, which is why the Doctor has no treatment plan, despite humans and Vulcans knocking around together for about 300 years by this point. Not to worry, as Ensign Conspicuous says he can sort it out himself if he's left alone in his room to meditate or rub one out or whatever. The Doctor agrees and confines him to his quarters with a flashy thing on his neck to monitor how horny he gets or something. The horny monitor is showing some alarming results, and the Doc wants Tuvok's opinion on the matter. As a Vulcan and a father, he's been through Shagger season himself, so may be able to offer some clarity. Though hesitant, the Doctor does manage to wheedle some useful data from him. Shagger season can't be treated with any conventional means, and there are but 3 methods of making it go away. Number 1, do a sex. Get jiggy with someone. Number 2, do a fight. Engage in ritual combat over a mate, presumably to solve any ratio issues. Number 3, do a meditate. Surround yourself with the ugliest candles possible and think about Margaret Thatcher. Ensign Conspicuous is giving the latter a go, and Tuvok thinks trying to interfere in any way would be counterproductive, so we'd best leave him to it, though there is a suggestion that meditation may not be a guaranteed solution. We've still got a planet to plunder, so we're off to do some spelunking. B'Elanna joins Paris and Neelix to teleport down, but there's something a little off with her. The others see it, but elect to keep stum, which seems a little blasé when they're going to be trapped in a cave with her. Down to the planet we go, where we have a look at that abandoned settlement we mentioned earlier. Scans suggest it's been abandoned for about 50 years, but the decay is more than expected for that length of time, suggesting something more serious. B'Elanna doesn't give a shit about all that, though, and drags us into the mine. We need to rappel 50 meters down a rock face to get to the bottom of the mine, which rather raises the question of how the people who were here before extracted the stuff they dug out, but let's ignore that for now. It's a long drop, but we have these fancy high-tech pitons that are far less likely to fail. Then one fails. Neelix falls, bringing B'Elanna with him, and Paris rushes down to check on them. B'Elanna is mostly fine, if somewhat furious, but Neelix is injured. It's only his leg, so he'll probably survive, but at least it's painful. B'Elanna shouts at him for being an incompetent git and nearly getting them both killed, before Paris steps in to defend him, suggesting the reliable super tech was at fault. Her response is a little unusual, in that she bites his face, which I'm pretty sure is a Klingon sex thing, so pon farr is infectious? Okay, sure, why not? Realizing that her body might force her to do the deed with Paris or Neelix, she takes the smart choice and risks death by going into the rest of the mine alone. Paris is updating Voyager on how things are going with the away team. He also mentions B'Elanna biting him and suggested that she enjoyed it, though that may just be his interpretation of the matter. Janeway's going to organise another away team to come rescue them until Tuvok mentions that he might know why B'Elanna got chompy with Paris's face. To Ensign Conspicuous's quarters, where he gets a bit shouty at Tuvok before sorting himself out. Tuvok asks him what happened with B'Elanna, and Ensign Conspicuous describes what he can remember, specifically the physical contact and how it felt important at the time, so that's your Ponfar infection vector. Ensign Conspicuous, who I'm beginning to regret giving such a long name, wants to go down to the planet to find her and see if she's up for those sexy times now, but Tuvok points out that's a shit plan and tells him to do some more meditating instead. We're back in the mines, but with Tuvok and Chakotay too, whilst Neelix is hoisted up to be healed or whatever. We're going after B'Elanna before the transferred Ponfar kills her, which is apparently a thing it can do. I guess it kills her by overheating, as I can't think of any other reason why that zip on her jacket keeps getting lower. She's found something though, a flashy gizmo behind some rocks. The others catch up to her and she wants to show Paris her discovery. A point to Robert Duncan McNeill here for Paris not quite knowing how to deal with a woman showing him a form of physical affection. She tells us that the flashy gizmo is a power conduit, and it's plated with the material we're here to get. That's great and all, but the others want to get her to the ship for treatment. That option becomes unavailable when we discover that we're not alone. Their leader, Dusty, wants to know who we are and what the fuck we're doing in their mine, which is fair enough. We explain that this is just a big misunderstanding, and we were only going to rob the shit out of the place because we thought everyone was gone. Oh, and one of us is very aggressive, but don't worry because it's not contagious. They take that news a lot better than I expected, apparently more interested in the fact that we couldn't scan their life signs. Before we can discuss anything further, an alarm sounds. It's a seismic activity signal, and they warn us to move away from an unsafe wall. B'Elanna doesn't hear, so one of the natives tries to move her, which is a curious choice when we've warned them that she's a bit skittish, and the results are somewhat predictable. Paris tries to stop her but fails, and B'Elanna knocks the guy to the ground whilst also nicking his gun. Curiously, he simply disappears, so they've either got teleportation, the ability to walk through rocks, or very effective camouflage. In fact, they've all taken the chance to bugger off, and they've nabbed Chakotay and Tuvok as well. That fight must have made B'Elanna's overheating worse too, as she's now down to her vest. Any more exertion, and I'm going to get demonetized. Paris manages to convince her that we should get back to the ship, not only for backup, but also to treat her. Speaking of which, the Doctor is worried about Ensign Conspicuous. Chemical treatment can only do so much to correct imbalances, but he does have another idea. To the holodeck, where the Doc introduces him to the idea he's had. If Ponfar is a physical affliction, then perhaps a physical act can solve it. As an aside, we give some points to the writers here for the way this approach is described by the Doctor, namely his appeal to Vulcan pride in matters of the mind. By phrasing this as a mental problem, that Ensign Conspicuous needs to simply convince himself that this act is no different, he reframes the whole issue as one of psychological discipline. The whole scene could have simply been the Doc saying, "Here you are, have at it," so I appreciate the effort and the thought that was put into writing this explanation. But, again, I digress. While Ensign Conspicuous is getting it on with a video game character, B'Elanna's having her own problems. Her urges are becoming more difficult to control, and she makes that known. Paris tells her that's not going to happen, as he'd be taking advantage of her, leaving me in the curious position of having to say that Tom Paris is not a dick. Perhaps this is a new start for him where he learns to control the facade he wears. Then he makes a crack about being irresistible, because Tom Paris is a dick. While Paris and B'Elanna are sparring, Dusty is quizzing Chakotay and Tuvok. During this, we learn that his people once lived on the surface before they were attacked by an enemy with overwhelming force. Some people managed to escape to the mines and have lived there ever since, masking their presence in case the enemy ever returns. Chakotay suggests we can help with that by telling them how we detected the mineral we came to steal and offering to help remove the ruins above. That latter point might take care of itself if the ground keeps shaking, as we hear another seismic alarm. Back to Paris and B'Elanna, who've been trapped by rockfalls while she continues to struggle with the horn. He again declines because Tom Paris is not a dick, but not before he gets a bit of mouth action, because Tom Paris is a dick. Back on the ship, it looks like Shagger season is over for Ensign Conspicuous. To sickbay then, where the doc tells Janeway that he's almost, nearly, sort of, back to normal, and I find myself wondering why that rather vague bill of health has been included. Regardless, the doc tells us he'll start work on adapting the program to be suitable for Klingons. None too soon, as B'Elanna's memory is starting to be affected. Not to worry though, as Chakotay and Tuvok arrive to rescue them, and we leave the caves. It looks like there might be a tiny bit of reason to worry, as we can't seem to contact Voyager. Tuvok is concerned for B'Elanna, so much so that he straight up tells Paris to, give one for the team, as it were. He awkwardly starts talking to B'Elanna, but she shuts him up and drags him away for a bit of Klingon coitus. He's initially confused by her desire to emphasize the rough in Rough and Tumble, but soon gets into the swing of things. Or would have if Ensign Conspicuous hadn't appeared out of nowhere and dragged him off. Looks like the cure wasn't quite as effective as the Doctor had hoped, and he's popped down to explore option 1, do a sex, or option 2, do a fight. Oh, and he broke the communications on the ship, too, which is why we can't call them. Ensign Conspicuous claims the ancient Vulcan right of having a bit of a punch-up. His plan somewhat backfires when B'Elanna accepts the challenge herself and, oh, mate, she's gonna fuck you up. Chakotay isn't too keen on them fighting, but Tuvok points out that the alternative is dying from Ponfar brain things, so a few broken bones are preferable. I'd probably just stun them both myself, but that's me. Fighting ensues, and after a bit of a squabble, Ensign Conspicuous gets knocked on his arse for the second time this episode. Tuvok declares that the fight means Shagger season is officially over for both of them, and we get back to the ship, presumably after comms are fixed. Back on Voyager, Paris and B'Elanna are a bit awkward with each other, and we begin a will they, won't they, which is going to be really awkward for Ensign Conspicuous, but fuck that guy. We also help Dusty and his mates to be less visible, like we said we would, and, in the process, we discover a bit of foreshadowing before we fly away. Well, that came pretty much out of nowhere. I said a while back we were lining Ensign Conspicuous up for something, but a single scene in the holodeck about finding B'Elanna a table does not a wooing make. It's another example of Voyager not laying sufficient foundation to build plot elements upon a charge that's been levelled at it multiple times by now. That said, we got some decent enough meat in this one. Vulcans don't have a lot going for them in the character department, as there's not much you can do with always being logical. Which is why I welcome a little exploration of one of the few taboos their species has, as it's an interesting topic to cover due to that juxtaposition of physical imperative over mental discipline, and the Doctor's little speech to Ensign Conspicuous complemented that very nicely indeed. Elsewhere, we saw the first proper shots fired in the B'Elanna-Paris affection conflict. We've sniffed around it a couple of times, but this makes it fully overt. Romance plotlines aren't really my thing, but I've been asking for longer running threads for a while, so I'm not really in a position to complain. Then, of course, there's that Borg corpse at the end. I suspect most of us here know where the end of this season is going. Even I can remember cast changes, despite forgetting almost everything else, but that doesn't stop this little bit of foreshadowing being a welcome inclusion. End of episode.